Hi, everybody. Sorry for the delay. We're just about to start. Meg, can you tell me that we've got sound? And we'll check here while we let people get signed on. Here on this new setup on Sailing Illustrated's Facebook page. And that, hi, Meg. I see Meg has joined. Thank you. And we'll let others get on here as this is new territory for all of us. Sorry for the, excuse me, trouble getting started this morning. We had a pretty serious technical issue, unbeknownst to all of us. Meg, are we live on the Facebook page now? Sailing Illustrated. There it is. Okay, I see it. We got a couple people on here. The key is to do the key obviously is to do the video, and a lot of people watch it in their own time. And we'll get started here shortly. Where's the jazz? Well, Bernie Wilson joined. Hello. We're just getting this going, Meg, because there's the problem with the audio actually playing, but we are going to have some jazz. Our theme song, our regular theme song right now, Come Fly With Me. Good morning, everybody. Sorry for the false start 30 minutes ago, but we are here live on Facebook Live for the first time that we have been on our Facebook page for Sailing Illustrated rather than my personal page. We're trying to shift the Sailing Illustrated items over to our Sailing Illustrated Facebook page, facebook.com/Sailing Illustrated blog, and that's what we've got going here now. And we'll do this, God and Facebook willing, every Tuesday henceforth. I don't have my executive producer here in San Francisco today. She'll be up tonight, but we wanted to get going because there's so much going on, and we have a fascinating interview with Dobbs Davis that we did just before we went live, or tried to go live the first time. And Dobbs Davis, the U.S. editor of Seahorse Magazine, the esteemed worldwide racing publication, probably the best yacht racing publication in the world. And let's see how we're doing here. Meg, who's down in San Diego, about to on her way up. I see people joining now. Thank you all for joining us for this first ever. Mark Michelson, Suzanne McFadden, Chris Bretschker, Dennis St. Ange, Dick Anderson, lots of people on here already. Thank you for your comments, and we'll keep an eye on them and try to keep the sound down on my iPad so that you don't hear that, and we'll get into this show here on Sailing Illustrated, our Facebook page, for the first time, rather than doing over on my personal page, and we'll catch up with you in a moment. But let's indeed get on with the show. We always like to highlight what's going on in Sailing Illustrated. We promoted the show early this morning, Tuesday morning, and then, of course, last evening at 3 minutes after 7 p.m., I believe it was, 3:30, 1900 here, so it was, Mark Michelson predicted they would finish at approximately 2000 our time. That was it, 2000, and they finished at 20:03:30, or just slightly before that. So that's a pretty good job by Mark Michelson to make that prediction. That's, of course, Mighty Merlot. We'll talk about them in a bit. Finishing off Diamond Head in Hawaii. This is all on the website, on sailingillustrated.com. Our website, but again, we are coming to you here on the Sailing Illustrated Facebook page, facebook.com/Sailing Illustrated blog. And we'll do this, again, with any luck, on every Tuesday. Thanks for joining us today for our inaugural session. We knew it would be a little rough. We're also going to talk about as the sailing industry consolidation continues, the quantum sailing sales buying out hood sailmakers. Yesterday that was announced. And then we'll talk about the upcoming start of 300 plus boats for the 2017 Chicago-Mackinac, that venerable longest annual freshwater race in the world, starting this Saturday off of Chicago. This was probably our favorite picture of the week, everybody's favorite picture of the week. This is the start last Thursday. Remember, Transpac has 3 starts. They started the slowest boats, the smallest boats, on Monday, and then the next set of boats on Wednesday, and then the fastest, the speedsters, including Comanche, the big boat, and the 70-footers, the sleds, the Andrews 68s and the Santa Cruz 70s. And we used to think the Santa Cruz 70s looked like big boats, right? Well, there is Bonacera, the Santa Cruz 70, juxtaposed against Comanche, the 100-footer that is about to finish. They may have just finished while we're speaking here. We expect them to finish. Hello, Bill Allen and Buddy Friedrichs. Welcome to both of you. But what an amazing juxtaposition of those 2 boats, when we used to think that the sleds, the 70-footers, looked big. Well, look again, they barely come up to the half stripe on the jib. And, well, there you have it. The other big boat, Manouche Moshe Eddy's Reel 100, had rudder problems. They hung something, hit something, so they haven't had a big impact in this race. They've been a bit back. Yesterday was announced that Quantum Sails was buying hood sailmakers. This is a pretty significant shift because the Hood Sailmakers was formed in 1952, and of course by Ted Hood, who then went on to win the America's Cup. And this is a big shift because Quantum Sails, which has been number 2 to North, is starting to bulk up with now the Hood Lofts. And this follows, of course, North Technology Group buying the remnants of the Hall spars after they went into receivership. They struggled here earlier this year. They'd already bought Southern Spars and a number of other marine-related businesses. That is North Marine Group. So North Marine Group now has the 2 big spar makers, or the former spar maker and Hall spars. And that's interesting development in the sport. I'm not sure it bodes well, but it's a change that we wanted to note here on our first Tuesdays with TFE show. Over the weekend, we celebrated the life of Doug Peterson. If Olin Stevens was the most famous yacht designer in the last century, Doug probably was the second most. I mean, the guy came out of nowhere and he designed a boat. You probably, the older folks among you will remember again, Barry, his very high-profile IOR boat that went out and just dominated offshore racing. And then I'm reading here from the information from last weekend. His celebration of life was Thursday, actually, at San Diego Yacht Club. Very well attended, nice crowd, big turnout. And then they spread his ashes off the Schooner Yacht America on Saturday off Point Loma. But boats names such as Gumboots, Kindred Spirit, Vendetta, Racy, Great Pumpkin, Petrified High Noon, Annabella Lee, High Roller, Country Girl, Louisiana Crude, which was an SORC winner until they ran into measurement problems, Stinger, Checkmate, Eclipse. I mean, it goes on, to say nothing of production boats, the stock racers like Contessa 35, the New York 40, the Baltic DP Series, the famous Serendipity 43, which was the production run really off of Louisiana Crude. Dougie was a good friend of ours down in San Diego. He's had a long bout with cancer, and he would still be at the bar at SDYC most afternoons right up almost to the end. And remember, too, that he had a distinguished America's Cup career, was a key member of Bill Koch's winning team in 1992 for America Cubed, joining that team. I guess he started with the Beach Boys Syndicate, and then when they were subsumed by Bill Koch Syndicate, Doug ended up as arguably their lead designer, or at least with the MIT guys, with Professor Jerry Milgram, and they battled it out, and they won with America Cubed, which was the fastest boat in '92 by far. And then he went over to the Kiwis, and when Russell Coutts and Sir Peter Blake with the '95 team, NZL-32 Black Magic, he was in that design team, and of course they won that. They dominated the '95 Cup, Russell Coutts beating Dennis and Paul Carrot driving our team. I was with them 5-0 in the finals of the match. And Doug then later joined Prada and helped design. You're never sure about these modern day America's Cup teams, who did what to whom. But let's remember Doug for just being a great human being. At his celebration of life, everybody talked about him being a bit disorganized and a bit, helter-skelter sometimes. But he was, when he focused on something, he was laser-like focused, and was just, without formal yacht design training, was just a brilliant mind. And certainly among, if not the greatest yacht designers of the last, 100 years, the modern era. Doug Peterson, may he rest in peace, 1945, 2017. Transpac. There are 55 boats. 3 or 4 now will have finished. The trimarans, the first 3 trimarans, were out front, of course, no surprise. And then you will see that Comanche is well and truly out ahead of the other monohulls. Again, no surprise. They optimized for this race, got very light, moded particularly for this race, and are just behind, frankly, the trimarans, and are expected to be finishing right about now. Mighty Merlot finished last night off Diamond Head. That's the finish line. The extension here is the finish line. And just about the time everyone expected. And it's a bit of an upset because the more modern, certainly the pre-race favorites were Fado 3 and Maserati, the other 2 tries. And I spoke at length. We were going to do a brief interview this morning, and we ended up doing we did 13 plus minutes. So let me get to that with Dobbs Davis of Seahorse Magazine. And it's audio, and I hope it all plays well here, but let's see if we can hear Dobbs. Dobbs Davis of Seahorse Magazine, the esteemed U.S. editor. And with any luck, we'll have that audio now.
Quite an honor, given who you have on the show and its reputation. So thanks very much.
And you're in Annapolis, but headed to Honolulu tomorrow. The big news, of course, is Mighty Merlot, and they finished in record time last evening. What's the latest? You've got the live tracker, Dobbs. Tell us what's the latest.
Well, the latest is, Tom, that it just updated a few minutes ago, 0700 Honolulu time, is that Comanche is going 19.3 knots, and they're only 66 miles out. On the tracker that I see, they're just intersecting the east end of Molokai, which for those of us that are old enough to remember the Clipper Cup and Kenwood Cups, we saw a bit of that end of the island.
And what time do you think they'll finish? Another 2 or 3 hours? We're talking about Comanche now.
Well, if you do the math, that suggests 3.5 hours. But what I received word just about 20 minutes ago on a phone call at Honolulu is the wind is light there in the finishing area, at least at Diamond Head. Also, looking at the tracker, which is really clever, Tom, is the wind overlay. There's this graphic application called Windy TV has taken the European mid-range model, forecast model, and set it to motion with some clever graphics. So basically, it's putting wind barbs on there and color coding it for pressure and the amount of wind, and then with the graphics showing you direction. And if you look right now around Molokai and Oahu, it's blue, it's light, it's less than 10 knots wind.
I've been using windytv.com, whatever the latest iteration of the website is. We've been using it for Sailing Illustrated and for the America's Cup, and frankly, it was often more accurate for the race day forecasts in Bermuda than Ian Murray's forecasts on at least 2 or 3 of the days. But thanks for that. What was the deal Dobbs, what's the deal with the race trackers supposedly going live when the first boat gets within, 100 nautical miles? Did that happen? Was there some kind of a screw up?
That's a good question. And that's one that I posed to our race chairman, Tom Torrio, in Honolulu. He's allegedly working on that issue with the folks at Yellow Brick. But, they're supposed to go to that 100-mile live mode when they get within that radius. They're also report or are required by the sailing instructions to report in at 100 miles. Comanche did that at 05:09 this morning, Honolulu time.
So that's a good segue back to Comanche. They set a 24-hour distance record, and will they also set an elapsed time record for the monohull?
Yes, the answer is yes. And the record that they set was between 0800 position reports. So 0800 Pacific time, every day of the race, the entries are supposed to report their positions at that time. And over that time period, from Friday 0800 to Saturday 0800, that's when Comanche set that 484 a mile record. Now, I got an email from Robbie Haynes
this
after
is interesting.
That because the reference that we had to whose record they beat was Alfa Romeo. This came from Stan Honey. However, Robbie said, we did 453 on Wild Oats in the last race in 2015. So I asked Tom and some of the people at Transpac Yacht Club to try to chase down that info so we could just make sure that Robbie wasn't looking at possibly another 24-hour segment.
Oh, interesting. We have Dobbs Davis, the esteemed U.S. editor for Seahorse magazine, probably the best, certainly the best technical, if not the best yacht racing magazine on the planet. Dobbs, not only have these two records, one's fallen, apparently another one, the multi-hull record broken by Multi Merlo, who finished last evening, and another record about to be broken by Comanche, we suspect. What is the significance of these records being broken? Why did it happen? Is it just the technology, or was it the wind and the wind direction? What gives?
It's a combination of both, Tom. What Stan Honey told me about a month ago when we were talking through the preview of the race and, what will it take? I mean, Comanche is obviously a boat built to go out and harvest the world's ocean racing records. That's the purpose of that boat. And it's set up to be moded in different ways for different racing events. So it's a fascinating project, and they therefore need to make decisions on how they set the boat up, get it measured and rated for the race, and do that in enough time in advance so they know they can optimize their performance. So Stan said, look, this boat is capable of breaking Alfa Romeo's record set in 2009. That record, by the way, was 5 days, 14 hours, 36 minutes, and 20 seconds. Because he was a navigator on Alfa Romeo, it turns out.
Yeah, right.
So he's very familiar with it, and he's won the race a bunch of times. Everybody knows Stan. And so what he said really was it's not being super windy that really makes this work. It's for the wind to be steady. In other words, not like the last two races we had in 2013 and 2015 when Wild Oats and Ragamuffin came out in search of that same record. And unfortunately, they just had El Nino, influenced weather conditions where there were big holes and there were, really strange things going on. They had to sail a lot of extra distance. In this race, the track, if you look at it, for all these boats, is more of the classic S-shaped Transpac track,
exactly,
where you dive south, stay in the pressure, and then cut back up across the rum line to reduce the distance when you finally get to the fully filled trade winds. But here, the early indications were that the Pacific High had been split, that there was a danger of it moving south and influencing the racetrack with some light air closer to rum line. So a lot of people dove at Catalina, dove south pretty fast. I think by the time Comanche and the other guys got started on Thursday, the models were looking better. They didn't dive quite so far south. Small deviation, just enough. But yesterday, Had the pleasure of actually talking with Ken Reed by sat phone. That was really cool. And
Ken Reed, the skipper on Comanche, of course.
On Comanche, correct. And and how cool is that? That you can talk to a boat that's going 22 knots in the middle of the Pacific Ocean.
Yeah,
It's amazing. And he and Stan both said, look, what the real key here has been the weather. Stan said the breeze never went under 17 knots, which is pretty remarkable.
Yeah.
So they chose a track that guaranteed steady wind speed. I think that was really the key. But technology also comes into it, Tom. I mean, Comanche, Mighty Merlot, the Mod 70s, these guys have these amazing tools now. And I'll throw in one other technical point if you have the time with Comanche, and you'll hear more about this. But
please.
They went to great lengths to make that boat as light as possible. They chose a mode that was going to be ideal for that race and that track and that point of sail, that wind velocity. I mean, it was very much a modeled configuration. So, for example, they went with 15 guys. Normally, I think that boat sails with over 20 people. They left the boards on the dock. They didn't bring those dagger boards. Those are absolutely essential for good, fast upwind performance or anything, closer than a close reach. So that and some other measures, sails. They minimized the number of sails they brought just to save the number of kilos that they were bringing on board. And I think it was Ken that said that they had one spinnaker. One spinnaker.
Wow.
So
hey Dobbs, how big an upset is this? Mighty Merlot beating the other two highly touted trimarans that, frankly, everybody, I think people thought Fado 3 would be the odds-on favorite. How big an upset is this?
Well, then you'd have to look at the differences between Mod 70s and Orma 60s. As you know, Tom, having been in the European scene a lot, you know how evolved those Orma 60s have gotten over the years. I don't know much about that. I'm not as proximal to that technology as I should be. But I think it's a testament to the evolution of that design and to the guys sailing the boat. They really did a nice job. I will say that they were straight off the starting line at Point Fermin on Thursday, right out ahead of the other guys. I mean, no question.
So they led wire to wire.
They sped right off the line. The other two, let's see. Yeah, I think certainly Maserati tacked. I know that they tacked to port to get a clearing lane to then tack back to starboard and head to Catalina. The other aspect of it is the Maserati has some very radically curved boards that kind of resemble AC boards. Allegedly, they had done some testing, and they reckoned that their boards were going to allow them to get some kind of lift out of them at more than 14 knots of speed. That was their sort of break even. But I've been watching them on the tracker, Tom. I haven't seen any evidence of any superior speed out of that boat compared to Fado.
Interesting. While I'm mentioning Maserati, let's talk about the rudders and the debris. I don't really like the expression UFO, underwater floating object.
Floating object, yeah.
But obviously the debris has been a big factor in this race, not only for the two boats of note who lost rudders, Manoush Moshayedi's Real 100, the other super maxi in the event.
Not this
and
one.
also Maserati, who've
That's
done
Maserati.
a marvelous job continuing on with only two of their three rudders.
Correct.
And what's going on? How bad is the situation in the Pacific? Other yachts apparently have had to back down. I know I heard from John Sangmeister that they on OEX had a bbig back down after they ran into a big mess of plastic and netting. What's the deal?
Well, it's really bad out there, Tom. I mean, we've seen this in the last two cycles. Some of that is probably remnant debris from the tsunami in Japan in 2011, right? I know the 2013 race had issues with breakages on rudders and other problems. And then also in the last race, there's debris out there. We had a partnership in 2015 with this Dutch-based operation called the Ocean Cleanup, and they had a very ambitious scheme of designing a big V-shaped boom that would sit out in the ocean and collect debris in it. to get the data needed to try to model this, they actually contracted with a lot of the boats from Transpac to collect data on their way home. Because, as you know, coming back from Hawaii, you don't want to go on the trade winds. You want to go north and then cut across the coast. So they had what was called the world's largest scientific experiment, where several boats were being delivered back, went along transects along lines of latitude, and took observations, collected data for this study. So yeah, it's a serious problem.
Interesting. Dobbs, thanks very much. We've got a 30-minute show, and this is fascinating. I'd love to go on for the whole show. Maybe we can check in with you again next week. This is our first regular Tuesday show on Sailing Illustrated, actually on our Facebook page, because we're at Facebook Live. And I'll put some of the slides in that you send me, thank you, into the show. This is actually taped a few minutes before the show. And Dobbs Davis, the U.S. editor for Seahorse Magazine, we're delighted to have you on board and have your expertise and commentary on the 2017 Transpac race. Dobbs, thanks very much.
Thank you, Tom. It's a pleasure to be with you.
Dobbs Davis, again, much appreciation, much appreciated. I just, in closing on the Transpac, I want to note that there are at least 4 kids, young teens, racing, which I think is a great sign for the sport. On Between the Sheets, we've got Will Vandervoort sailing with his father, Rob Vandervoort, Balboa Yacht Club friends of ours. We got Peter Sangmeister, the eldest of John Sangmeister's 3 sons, sailing. This is live from during the race. Yesterday, I believe this was taken. And also on Varuna, Gray Hemmons is sailing. And we're delighted to see Gray out there. We know Gray from racing against Varuna on It's Okay in Balboa Yacht Club in SoCal and Northern Mexico racing. Excuse me, Gray. Hemmons is, I think, 14. His kids are all 12, 13, 14. And also Tom Holtz's son, whose name escapes me, is Kelly, I believe is his name, is racing on the Pac 52 Bad Pack out of San Diego. So nice to see at least those 4 kids. And there may be others that we don't know about. But finally, congratulations to Mighty Merlo, Mr. Peyron and his team, Mr. Enlow, for their first to finish in the 2017 Transpac. We'll do some more on it next Tuesday, and in the meantime, of course, on sailingillustrated.com as well as on our Facebook page. News from down under, the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron is happy to have the America's Cup back home. They had a massive parade down Queen Street. Let's take a look here at a brief video of what's gone on in Auckland later last week.
Apparently there's a bit of a gathering, so I've got a few of my mates here.
80,
go and take this thing here.
80,000 people.
That's unbelievable. I'm told that it's just Queen Street is full. Nani Whānau, what a fantastic welcome they gave us. We've been dreaming of this, and now it's going to happen.
Unbelievable the support. You just really, it's starting to sink in now what we've done to the country.
Yeah, we got a little wet, but just unreal. You know how many people have been supporting us. Absolutely pissing down, but the rain's obviously hasn't dampened anyone's enthusiasm to get out here and celebrate. Absolutely amazing.
I think I was complaining 3 days ago about the heat in Bermuda and sweating it out in our tents. It'd be great to be back home.
privileged and lucky and incredibly proud, frankly.
Okay, well, that was last Wednesday, actually, and as Glenn Ashby said, it was pissing down, and for those of you who know Kiwi and Aussie, that doesn't mean what it literally means but in English, but it means, of course, that it was raining cats and dogs last Wednesday. It took a while for that video to show up, and nice video that it is. There's a lot of news coming from down under. We don't have time to cover it today, but suffice to say it will be 2021. That's not official, but my inside scoop is that it will be 2021. There's no decision yet on a boat. As they said, they would come back and do a debate between a monohull and a multi-hull, and they are doing just that. Today they're in Wellington, the nation's capital, with the Cup, and it's on a bit of a tour around the country. And what other country, perhaps besides Australia, is so enthused about the America's Cup? Is there another country other than New Zealand? Okay, let's wrap it up. This coming weekend, there are some 320 boats registered for the 109th race, Chicago-Mackinac 2017. We've been doing some coverage on that already on sailingillustrated.com. We'll cover it some more. We have some of our dear readers, some of you I notice here that are online with us, have promised videos and photos. And then next week in Newport Beach, California, we'll be covering the Balboa Cup, the 51st edition of that prestigious youth match racing championship hosted annually by Balboa Yacht Club. We really don't have time for any Q&A. Just mention, we got a big crowd on here now. Sorry again for the delay. You could see that getting Dobbs Davis and getting him on was not live, but we managed to get a video, an audio of him was terrific. Greg Newman. Transpac is sharing our video, by the way. Thank you. Buddy Friedrichs, Bill Allen, Doug Augustine, San Diego Yacht Club. You'll be missed in San Diego. Doug, Kevin Brown, Nancy Williamson. A lot of you. Thanks. Ron Barowitz has been a regular. Looks like an Opti regatta on that screen. Chuck Ullman, thank you for joining. Jeff Glass, Robert Bentz. Greg Newman says, more hand gestures, please. Sorry, Greg. We were going to do that live, and Dobbs was going to use his cursor, but this is homebrew. This is an amateur act, but we're trying to take the sport to a new level with this live show every Tuesday. Eddie Hollister, hello. My mom in Ann Arbor, Janice Davis. Clark Chapin, thank you. Any news on the Sequoia, the restored Cal 40? It's a good question, Clark Chapin in Plymouth, Michigan. We'll check. Sergio Mercado up in Idaho. Others of you, thank you for joining. Much appreciated. And Transpac is now just saying that it's about 90 minutes until the finish of Comanche. So we'll go back and have a watch of that. We'll be back next Tuesday on this same Facebook page, our Sailing Illustrated Facebook page, not my personal page, with our regular Tuesdays with TFE. Thanks for joining us today here at the Beach Street Yacht Club in San Francisco.